So hi, everybody. I'm Margo Malachowski, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm an education and outreach coordinator for the network of the National Library of Medicine. And we are here in a session of Blossom, building lifelong opportunities for strength, self-care, outlook, morale, and mindfulness. So I have just a couple of housekeeping items before we begin with Listen to Your Body with Nisha here. And so advance my slides. First, there is a hashtag, and there's been a lot of activity on Twitter, so I encourage you, if you do tweet, to check out the hashtag Blossom 2021. And then if you are chat with your fellow attendees, please use the chat tab in the conversation panel on the right side of the screen. Questions for the presenter should be in the Q&A tab, and I'll be monitoring that, and I'll be giving the questions to Nisha at the end. This session is being closed captioned. To access the captions, please go to nnlm.gov/blossomcc. And just a reminder that by attending any of the Blossom sessions, you have agreed to the Code of Conduct. I know we're all professionals here, and we appreciate your cooperation. So before getting into the session, I'm going to run through the acronyms of who we are and how we got here. So the NIH is the National Institutes of Health, which is the nation's leading medical research agency. Right now, many of you may be becoming familiar with the National Center for Allergies and Infectious Diseases. Dr. Fauci is the director, but this is just one of many centers and institutes at the National Institutes of Health. NLM is the National Library of Medicine, and the NLM is an institute at the National Institutes of Health. And this is the world's largest biomedical library, which maintains and makes available a vast print collection, as well as producing electronic health information resources, such as Medline Plus and PubMed. NNLM is the network of the National Library of Medicine, and we are the outreach program for NLM. RML is the regional medical libraries that coordinate the work of the network to give you programs and funding opportunities regionally and nationwide. And with that, I will turn over. Just have to click the right thing. There we go. Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you so much, Margo. Hi, everyone. My name is Nisha Modi. I'm going to share my screen here and start my presentation. Okay, so this session I titled Listening to Your Body. One thing that I saw, I wasn't able to unfortunately watch all of Katrina's last session, but I saw that someone tweeted that she said, show up for yourself, what? And I think showing up for your body is extremely important in this context. We are literally living in our bodies, and listening to it's very important, and it's a huge way we could show up for ourselves by listening to it. My pronouns are she, her. I am the associate director for those regional medical libraries Margo just talked about, the one in the Pacific Southwest region, so abbreviated as NNLM PSR at UCLA. And I'm also a feminist healing coach, something I do outside my working hours, something that I really enjoy. I'm so honored to be asked to do this because this really integrates both of the things that I do within libraries and for listening to your body. I'm just going to do the UCLA land acknowledgement. As a land-grant institution, NNLM PSR at the UCLA Library acknowledges the Gabrielino Tongva peoples as the traditional land caretakers of the Tovangar, which is in the Los Angeles Basin and Southern Channel Islands. I also have my own land acknowledgement that I'd like to say. I live on a land once known as Tovangar. It was the home of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples, who were the stewards of this land before it was settled. Tovangar was occupied and colonized by Spain in the 1700s, and then Mexico in the 1800s. In 1846, the United States declared war on Mexico in order to take possession of the Los Angeles region, California, and other lands in the West. I live within and amongst this complexity in a city that continues to evolve within the structures of capitalism, and I will always have more to connect with and learn about this land. So I wanted to ask you all how you feel right now, and you don't have to put it in the chat. I'm actually going to share another screen. Just bear with me. So you can see here that there's this code at the top, menti.com. And then type in the code 78642726. And just answer how you feel in your body right now. You can use your senses, descriptors, or weather. So you could say that I feel tight in my neck, I feel tingling, I feel water, I feel anxious, loud, stormy. Just do that and it will populate on the screen in a word cloud. Right, we're seeing anxious is a bigger one. Tired, overwhelmed, tense. I'm actually gonna go to my screen to see things bigger. Achy, tingly, about to cry, apathetic. Wow, lots of feeling there. Amused, exhilarated, focused, warm, disoriented, hungry, sleepy. Oh, thank you all so much for being vulnerable and sharing this. Yeah, I think it's so important when we listen to our body to be aware of what's happening in our body. One moment, about 8 minutes ago when I was starting, my heart was beating out of chest, and now it has calmed. That often happens to me when I'm going to speak in public. I will get really nervous, especially when there's 500 people watching. And then it calms once I start. And that's how my body is, right? Not everyone's body's like that. Some people have that feeling throughout. Some people might not have that feeling at all. And in any moment, the feelings in our bodies can change. And we're going to talk about that. So there's a lot of tired, anxious, sleepy, worried, hungry. Thank you. So it's good to be conscious of this because this also affects how we react to each other. So what we're going to do right now, feel free to keep typing stuff in, but we're actually going to do a body scan meditation. So feel free to keep your eyes open or keep them at a soft gaze. I put feel free to turn off your camera, but I know everyone doesn't have their camera on. So just get settled wherever you're sitting. If you do feel like you want to move somewhere else, sit on the ground, lie down, do whatever feels good for you. And just notice your breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth. Just notice the breath going through your nose and down to your throat. And when you exhale, how the breath comes back out. And I want you to bring attention to the top of your head. And we're just going to notice how our body feels. There's no judgment here. How we feel right now is where we're at, and there's no judgment about that. So just notice that and shift your attention from the top of your head to your ears at that level. Shift it to the left ear and just notice how that feels. Now shift it to the right ear. Just feeling that part of our body. And I just want to note that if anything that I name is not accessible to you, Feel free to put your attention in a location that feels comforting and nourishing for you. Now move your attention to the front of your face, to your eyes, whether they're open or at a soft gaze or closed. And just feel how they feel. Some of you said you felt tired, and just honor that where you're at. Move down to your nose. Focus on the tip of your nose. If it helps to touch it really quick to feel it, that's fine. Move down to your mouth. Notice how your jaw feels. If it feels a little tight, maybe do a gentle yawn. Loosen that up. Oftentimes our jaws are tight when we're stressed. It's good to have that awareness and loosen it. Now move it down to your neck. My neck is a place where I feel a lot of tension. So feel free to take a deep breath wherever you feel tight, if that feels good for you. Bringing your breath to those tight areas. Feel free to stretch it with your hand to the side if that feels good. Just to bring some looseness to it and some awareness. And bringing gratitude to our neck, which holds our whole head up. It's doing a big job. And move down to your shoulders. Feel free to roll them backwards or forwards if that feels good. Feel free to pull your shoulder blades back if that feels good for your back. We'll shift down to your heart. Feel free to place your hand over your heart. Apply any lighter, heavy pressure if that feels helpful for you. Just feel your heart beating within your body, doing something that just automatically happens. Your body has given you this gift of a heartbeat. We'll move down just above your belly button to your solar plexus. If it helps, feel free to keep your hand on your heart and one hand just above that belly button. Maybe do some breaths to fill your vessel up and then let go. We'll take a couple together. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Feeling your chest fill up and your belly fill up. Again, in through your nose. Out through your mouth. Just feeling anything. If you feel any tingles or sensations, just notice that. Have gratitude for these signals and these cues that your body is giving you. And we'll just move to our arms, to our elbows. Feel free to stretch your arms out, roll your wrists. We're sitting at our desks all the time, especially if you're working remotely, which I'm guessing is a lot of you. And even though we may have been doing the same in the office, we may not be getting up as much because we're working from home. We'll shift our attention down to our pelvic area and our hips. If at any time this area feels sensitive, feel free to move elsewhere. Just remember that our hips is the area that connects our upper and lower body. It's that connection between those 2 points and offering gratitude for that, for being that connector. Now I'll move down to our thighs, feeling any sensations there, noticing anything. Feel free to place your hands on it if that feels good, for you to feel it a little more deeply. Then move down to your knees. Stretch your legs out more if they're bent, just to feel the function of your knee and your kneecap. Move down to your calves, doing any stretching there, or just noticing how they feel. My calves are often naturally tight, and I have to stretch them out, not realizing how much tension it holds. Move down to your ankles, feeling that connection, rolling your ankles a little bit maybe. Just noticing, even if you're feeling sensations in other parts of your body, that's okay. And we'll move down to your feet, wiggling your toes a little bit. Just connecting your feet to the ground below you. If you're lying down, you do the best you can to imagine that. And just connecting it down to the earth, grounding what's below you. Maybe imagining yourself standing on grass or beach sand or soil, feeling the earth beneath us, feeling that we are the earth, we're part of it, just as much as plants and animals and nature is. And literally anchoring our whole body down through the earth, beneath the soil, down to the core. Realizing how important it is to stay grounded because we are connected to the earth. Let's take a few breaths in and out. Maybe getting a little deeper to really ground ourselves. Feeling deep in the earth. Last breath. Wherever you're ready, open your eyes or get back to the screen. Take your time to come out of that. Right. Okay, now, how are you feeling in your body? I want to hear again how you're feeling after that. Feel free to use the same code. Feeling tingling, calm, relaxed, disconnected. More relaxed, lighter, still tired. Yeah. Bringing awareness to our body and bringing that breath in really can help ease anything. But if it doesn't, that's also okay. If you're still tired or if you feel disconnected, sometimes some somatic practices can be too much for your body, actually. And that's one thing. I'm definitely big on meditating, but I also think if you're feeling dissociated or disconnected, meditating is actually not good for your body because you need to connect back to it and ground to it. Feeling more centered, calmer, looser, peaceful. All right, I'm happy to see the changes. So even if the changes was that you were calm first and now you're tense, it's just the point that bringing awareness to our bodies, because you could bring awareness to your body and notice tension and actually realize that, you're nervous about tension, right? And it can make you more tense. And so it's just good to notice these things over time and do something little every day, which I'll get to. Someone in the chat saying, doing the body scan, I've noticed I have a headache. My left ear hurts. I've been clenching my jaw this whole time. The back of my neck and shoulders are achy. My breaths are shallow and my right knee swollen. I noticed so much I was disregarding. Yes. So this is, like Katrina was saying, showing up for ourselves, noticing these things. Notice that Manisha said to notice my left ear, I notice my right ear. Yeah, it may also be one of those things when it's like, don't think about this, you think about, that's all you think about, right? All right, thank you everyone. Oh, your cat joined you, I'm always happy about that. I'm wondering if my cat's gonna join us, we'll see. Okay, I'm gonna share my presentation again. Okay. So yes, all these feels can come upon us, right? And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But first, I just want to ask you all in the chat box If you can give me an example of a resource, and this isn't a trick question or anything, just give me, we're all librarians here, right? Give me examples of a resource. I'm going to stop sharing because I can't see the chat unless I stop. So just give me an example of a resource. Plus, a database, money, my friend, people, experts, friends, church, the internet, books, LibGuides, YouTube, apps, patience. Yeah, it's a resource. Nature is a resource, definitely. Husband, yeah, the people are loved ones. The Calm app, yes, that's an excellent resource. Darby, I think I saw someone mention something about Darby. Actually, I've not heard. Is that a person? Information, my wife, video games, water. Yeah, there you go. I gotta look at that SourceForge link. Cool. Yeah, these are all resources, right? Yoga with Adrian. Ooh, I should check that out. MD, dictionary. Okay. Okay, so yes, these are all resources, but resources are not only external, right? For any of you Schitt's Creek fans, I had to put David up here. Your body itself is a resource. So I'll often talk about resourcing ourselves, and sometimes that can be external in terms of, an actual resource like Medline Plus, or a friend, or a loved one, or your wife, or your partner, or church, or meditation, or whatever. But your own body itself has so much. Your nervous system is connected to your body. Your breath is connected to your body. And a lot of you were talking about that. When you're talking about how you're anxious, that's part of your nervous system. Movement is something that our bodies can do. Some of us can move more than others, and that's okay. Everyone has their own accessibility needs and limitations. But movement is also something that is a resource for our body. Just moving visually through the body scan was a resource itself, right? Having other people guiding us is a resource. Okay. So even this GIF here, we don't need words to see what's going on with David, right? We can see that he's probably frustrated. He looks like he's holding his breath by puffing his cheeks out, right? He's moving in these different directions that seem a little erratic. So we actually know through nonverbal language how someone else is feeling, but we don't always notice it with ourselves because our eyes aren't on our own bodies, right? So this is just something to keep in mind when you're looking at someone and you're noticing nonverbal communication. There are things happening in their body. We might see that it seems like they're externalizing it on us. And maybe that energy is happening, but there's also something going on in their bodies as is something going on ours. So your feelings and body are always giving you cues. Feelings themselves are just sensations in your body, right? So feeling that tightness, that's a sensation in your body. Feeling heaviness, that sensation in your body. And those sensations will pass through. It's our minds that attach stories to them. So we can feel sad and kind of feel heavy, or our heart feels heavy, like literally in our body, or we're crying. We might have like a headache or another feeling in our body. And the story we attach can be that I'm too much, or I'm too emotional. Or it could also be the factual story that like I am, you're going through a breakup, or you're in a toxic work environment, right? And so you're sad or you're angry. So if you're angry, you might feel hot, right? So these are all just physical sensations in our bodies, and our minds attach stories to them. And when we push these sensations down, we're not allowing them to pass through, and they just end up lingering in our body. And they're going to want to be expressed again. So when we push these down, we're not letting these sensations pass through. So these cues that we can get a feeling of delight, where we might, feel happy and warm in a way that's different than the warmth we can feel from anger, right? And one manifestation of delight can be laughter. Heaviness is also a cue, and tears can be a manifestation of this. Tightness in our body cue, and that is pain. We can start feeling pain. Like I said, I feel a lot of neck pain sometimes when I'm stressed out. And that tightness is the cue that's telling me that pain might come now unless I do something about it. Breathing is a cue. So breathing, and when I say stress levels, it could be like for the body scan meditation, some of you felt calmer. So you're breathing into those areas, your stress levels might be reduced, or it could be you're not breathing at all. One thing that I noticed a year or so ago, I bought a brand new bedroom set, and it was, not cheap. And, I, was driving home from the furniture store and just thinking about all the money I spent. And I realized as I was driving on the freeway, I was literally not breathing because I was so stressed about this money I just put down. And I laughed, actually, because I'm like, wow, I'm like literally not breathing. And it showed how stressed I was. So these are manifestations of it. Being tired, having tired eyes is a cue. And burnout is a manifestation of this. So our bodies are always trying to help us. As you see, I really love gifts. Our bodies are always trying to help us. We might think we feel pain and that's a bad thing, but by giving us cues, it's letting us know we feel. And if we ignore our body's feelings, we are actually abandoning ourselves. We are not being with one for the vessel and the body that we're in, for this physical, it is a physical manifestation of energy in so many ways, right? So we are not showing up, we are abandoning ourselves. I mean, I talk about how we're abandoning ourselves, how it's another sign of like self-betrayal to not listen to our body. I often will sometimes think, oh, I'm tired, but I just got to do this one thing. And, one challenge to that is if we're in a workplace or we have a meeting or something like that, like we're like, okay, I could just make it through this meeting. And I'm not going to say what you should or shouldn't do, but it's helpful to be aware. It's helpful to know, okay, I'm tired. So in this meeting, I'm going to shut off my video. I'm feeling tired. My eyes are feeling heavy, or I'm tired. So I'm going to talk less, or I'm just going to tell everyone I'm tired, and be vulnerable. And so that gives a cue to everyone to know what's happening in your body. And I think that also allows everyone else to have permission to say that too. So it's definitely important to listen to it. And you don't have, you can yell at it like or you can, be kind to it as well, whatever works for you. I always think kindness is a good thing. So oftentimes feelings are associated with our bodily sensations and cues. So it really helps to give your feelings a language or word. And you could do this by naming colors, shapes, size, texture, smell, or physical features, by giving it a persona, which is why I have all these Care Bears here, right? Make your feelings real to you so you can take care of them. So really quickly, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just think of a feeling that maybe you named in either of the word clouds that you had, and think if you had to name it like a color or a shape or a size, how would you describe it? Is it like a green slimy monster, like Slimer from Ghostbusters? Is it like a cloud in the sky? Is it an actual person that you can name? I just want to see what everyone says. Gray, black, overfed Eeyore. I like that. Red and sharp. Vanta black, mushy peas. That's a good one. It really helps to visualize this, because then you actually see this as like you're personifying it in a way, even though it isn't necessarily a person, it can be. And you can care for that actual visualization and that manifestation of it as opposed to pushing it down. You see mushy peas, you think, oh, the peas are mushy. Like I should, I don't know what you could do to mushy peas. I don't know if that was a good example for me to use, but I should handle them with care. I'm not going to keep mashing them down, right? I'm not going to make them mushier. Fuzzy lint, yes. So being gentle with it. Gray and stormy. That could be something that you let pass by. A brick on my shoulder, sure. Cool, awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. I love these. So this is a really helpful technique to, looking at these physical descriptions of your body. It can also help and be therapeutic for you to draw it out if that's something that's helpful, or write it out, journal about it, keep track during the day, or just once a day if that's too much. Just so you can really start being aware and befriending those feelings and sensations in your body. Okay. So this is something I absolutely love. If you go to feelingswheel.com, this is a really helpful tool to name your feelings. So you might be feeling sensations in your body and you just want to push them down. But what you can do is instead is you can go to this, and you can see it has 3 levels. In the center is like the primary level that has 7 basic like emotions, feelings: happy, sad, disgusted, angry, fearful, and bad. And then there's a tertiary wheel that kind of expands on it more. So for sad, for example, if I go to lonely and vulnerable, these are ways to feel sad. You could feel lonely. You could feel all of these. You could say, oh, I feel lonely and vulnerable, but I don't feel guilty, right? And then lonely is broken down even more in this tertiary level that says isolated and abandoned. I absolutely love this wheel because it could be that you're feeling abandoned. You know, you have that feeling, but you don't know the core emotion of sadness. Or it could be that you're just mad or angry. You're not realizing that, oh, I feel violated. You know, that's not a connection I would make. Or you could be feeling confident and realize like, oh, that's like a way that I'm feeling happy, you know, or inspired, feeling happy. Or I'm feeling happy, but why am I feeling so happy? Because I'm feeling very creative, or I'm feeling very proud or playful. So this is something I think that's really, really helpful. So definitely bookmark this. And one really cool thing that I love about this is that it is made to a pillow that I bought. And I just got this like a week ago. And I don't think it has as many feelings as that wheel, but this was actually much bigger than I thought it was going to be. But I got so excited because I knew Sonia, my cat here, she's the one who curls, would love to sit in this. And even though I got this pillow to like kind of look at the feelings more explicitly, you know, I just love even more that she's there. And I always kind of look at how she's feeling. So right now, I don't know if you could see her ear is pointing to disrespected. It feels very cat-like. But yeah, so this, I got it from Society 6, if anyone's wondering. And there's different ones. There's smaller ones and whatnot too. So if you're interested, if that's helpful. Okay. So I want to bring attention to this really excellent book by Resmaa Menakem. Some of you may have heard of it, called My Grandmother's Hands: Racialized Trauma and the Pathway to Mending Our Hearts and Bodies. This is an amazing book. And one quote from this he has is, recent studies and discoveries increasingly point out that we heal primarily in and through the body, not just through the rational brain. We can all create more room and more opportunities for growth in our nervous systems. But we do this primarily through what our bodies experience and do, not through what we think or realize or cognitively figure out. I think so often in this world where we go through this academic system and, you know, even as librarians, like it's like thinking and doing and all this stuff, but we so often forget that healing really starts with our bodies. I think therapy, talk therapy, CBT is extremely helpful. But I think any therapeutic modality has a limitation, right? I think CBT is really great. But when I learned about my nervous system and how my body's reacting, for me personally, that really got to the root of things. Because one thing, like I said, I noticed as I was starting this presentation that my heart was beating really fast. And even a year ago, I would have been like, this is bad. Like, what's wrong with you, Nisha, right? But now I'm like, no, my heart's beating because there's 500 people here. I'm about to give a presentation. And this is what happens. This is how my nervous system is responding. And I also know that once I start, it eases and it has. So that has nothing to do with like talking things out or I'm using my brain to attach labels to that and know what's happening, but it is my body that's giving me those cues. I really recommend this book. He talks a lot about how bias and implicit bias and whatnot gets ingrained in our nervous system, even if it's a racialized reaction of our bodies, that this happens. And he specifically talks about 3 bodies. He talks about the Black body, the white body, and police bodies as well. He addresses that a lot. I think that's extremely relevant, not just now, but like for the past, not even several years, hundreds of years probably. So yeah, he talks a lot about that, about intergenerational trauma, which I could probably do a whole nother presentation about, but I really recommend this book. So I could talk about the window of tolerance. I'm just looking at the time really quick. Looks like I'm good. So this is one way to look at the nervous system. So trauma can be talked about in lots of ways. It could be talked about a single event of trauma and trauma over time. If you've experienced abuse, and this could also be trauma in the workplace. Toxic workplaces can exacerbate previous traumas and they can be their own inciting traumas. So we have in the middle, what's called the window of tolerance. So it says here, when you're in the window of tolerance, you can feel like you can deal with whatever's happening in your life. You might feel stress or pressure, but it doesn't feel like it bothers you too much. It's the ideal place to be. And I think within this window too, there's an area that feels very safe and calm and grounded, right? But then there's also, you get to the edges of it where it's a little too much, like, oh, I gotta just do this one more Zoom meeting, right? Or maybe ending a meeting 5 minutes earlier because you're like, you know what, if I go back to back and don't like stand up or stretch or get some water, like get those resources or resource your body in some way, that I'm going to move out of my window of tolerance. And what that could look like is two ways. So you can look below. It could be hypoarousal, where you get spacey and zoned out and numb. Yesterday, I attended the all-day symposium for the Medical Life Group of Southern California, Arizona, and it was wonderful and great, but it was Zoom all day. And I felt very numb at the end of the day. It was a lot for my body. And I don't say I was shut down, but I definitely just needed to like sit on the couch and like look into space, right? Or it could be the other end where it's hyperarousal. So if you look at hypoarousal, think of immobilization where you're not moving. Then you could look at hyperarousal where you feel anxious, angry, out of control, overwhelmed. Your body wants to fight or run away. So that's that idea of fight or flight. You see this like volcano exploding, right? Your body wants to fight. It's not something that you choose. Both of these reactions kind of take over depending on where you're at with your window of tolerance. And hyperarousal is more of a state of mobilization. So as you could see on the left, your window of tolerance can vary. So last week or a week or two ago, when all of the murders happened in Atlanta, my window of tolerance was small, and I think that was true for a lot of people, being overwhelmed by the pandemic, by murders, Black bodies, and now increasing hate crimes against Asian bodies. It's a lot for our bodies. I was shutting down a lot more frequently, feeling more numb. And so my window of tolerance was small. So when stress and trauma shrink your window of tolerance, it doesn't take much to throw you off this balance. And then on the right, it says working with a practitioner can help expand your window of tolerance so that you're able to cope with challenges. And I also think working with a practitioner and having awareness of your body could help, because if you're noticing you're feeling something and you're noticing in your body and you take 2 minutes to do some breathing or to reach out to a friend or to do something that helps you, you are resourcing your body and you're changing that window of tolerance. Now, I don't want to say this as a way to excuse horrible things that happen, but it's about coping with it in a way so that you can react in a way that isn't going to be harmful for your body, and teaching your body ways that you can cope with it and still address any wrongdoing that's happening. Because I was able to do some stuff after the murder in Atlanta, but it took me a few days to get out of it and actually mobilize and like start spreading the word about things and, reaching out to people to see how I could help, etc. So I hope that's helpful. So I just wanted to kind of go back to the body cues. So these are body cues that you might experience that are telling you something. So I'm sure there's more you could ask to this, but really want everyone to think about this in the context of their work day. If your neck's feeling tight, maybe you're sweating, a sudden change in body temperature. This happened actually 3 minutes before this presentation started, because I noticed that interactive word cloud thing I have, it said voting was closed because I accidentally closed it and I had to remake it. So I felt really hot suddenly, right? So my body was telling me like suddenly something has changed. Goosebumps, your heart racing, crying, feeling numb, a migraine, upset stomach. That's something when that happens to me too. Like that mind-gut connection is really important. Burning eyes, fidgeting. So more body cues that might happen. And feel free if you want, I'm not going to stop screen share, but feel free to talk about other ones that you've shared. I also thought this was a really helpful visual from this article on the bottom left, says bodily maps of emotions. So this shows these feelings of non-basic emotions that are associated with words. So it shows the warm colors is where there's increased activation and the cool colors is where there's decreased. So I just thought this was a great visual representation, especially if you look at anger and happiness. It was interesting because you're being activated in a lot of ways, but in happiness, you're activated all over your body. Anger, it tends to kind of be towards the top of your body, and same with pride, right? So I think it's helpful to really understand the different parts of our body that are activated. And I think depression, being neutral, feeling sad, it's less activating, right? So if you want to think about that hyper and hypoarousal, you can also think about it visually. I always think it's helpful to have a visual connection to this, to once again kind of personify it and realize that this is literally happening within your body. I mean, this is showing that it's happening. I also think it's really helpful to have gratitude for your body, which I've mentioned. The ways your body reacts to you are not problems. These are signals. This is not a moral binary, bad or good. Feeling pain is not bad. It might feel crappy, right? But if you didn't feel pain, you wouldn't know that you're hurt, right? If I cut myself and I'm just bleeding out, but I didn't know that and I didn't feel pain, I would just like be bleeding, or I would just feel wounded or be bruised and not even know it and continue to do what I'm doing. If you didn't feel pain, you wouldn't know that you need a remedy. So I really think it helps to have affirmation, gratitude. So wherever you are, I'm just going to say these a couple times each, and you could repeat with me or after me. Thank you for giving me breath. Thank you for giving me breath. Thank you for allowing me to bend my elbow. Thank you for allowing me to bend my elbow. Thank you for reminding me to stretch. Thank you for reminding me to stretch. So I want you to drop a couple more affirmations or gratitude in the chat box. I'm going to stop sharing. You could see. Thank you for allowing me to feel. Thank you for reminding me to smile. Yeah, not in that sexist way, but yes, just to smile. Thank you for letting me sleep. Yes, beautiful. Thank you for allowing me to love, allowing me to walk. Thank you for allowing me to sing. Yes, wonderful. Thank you for letting me dance. Thank you for the gift of touch. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me to hydrate my body. Yes, totally. I got my water right here. I hope you all do too. It's a good reminder for me. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to taste good food. Yes. Thank you for allowing me to create. Thank you for allowing me to be grateful. I love it. Awesome. Just letting me be. Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to be ticklish. Oh, I like that. That's a hard one for me to swallow. I don't know, but it's a good thing. Thank you for my tears. Yeah. Thank you for letting me hug my grandchildren and children. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Okay. So here are some ways to increase your body awareness. Meditation, if that works for you, you could do it guided or unguided. I know someone mentioned the Calm app. Insight Timer is also a really great free app you can use. There's a great app called Liberate, which is made by and for Black people. It is a paid app, but there are some free meditations, but I think it's a great way to support that. I also want to add caution, as I mentioned earlier, if you have significant trauma and significant anxiety, you may not want to meditate, or you might want to find a different way to meditate. There's a really great book called Trauma Sensitive Mindfulness by David Trevelyan. I forget, Trevelyan or Trevelyan, I apologize. But it's a really helpful book that looks at, if you've had significant trauma, how to be mindful and meditate, that you don't want to do a 20-minute meditation right away, right? Move habitually. So in the mornings or evenings, do stretches, dance, gently sway, self-holds, which will be the next slide. Ground yourself. So for those of you that maybe said that, the body scan was too much or made you feel more tight, it might be helpful to ground yourself. You can, and it's kind of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, looking at the different senses. So sight, describe 5 things you saw or you see in front of you. 4 things you could touch. 3 things you hear. 2 things you smell. 1 thing you tasted. Write them down, say them out loud, call someone and say them out loud. It really, really helps to maybe write that down, because it literally grounds you in the physical reality around you, especially if you're dissociating and feeling numb. Journal, manually or digitally. Jot down how you feel. describe this with colors, weather, shapes like before, if it helps to draw it out. I also think that, tracking your movement, that's also a digital way of journaling. If you have an app, feel free to drop any apps that you guys use, you all use in the chat if there's anything. I physically, I journal in the morning and sometimes in the evenings too. Sometimes I have ideas about things, so I will put it in my phone if that's more accessible. So these are ways to increase your body awareness. And I am saying right now, you don't want to do these all at once. It's a lot, especially if you don't have that practice. Even a couple years ago in the mornings, I would just get up and brush my teeth and start my day. But now I get up, I usually do movement, I stretch, I journal, and then I meditate. And that has taken a couple years for me to do. It did not all happen at once at all. So these are those self-holds. So the first one, it says for self-regulation of PTSD symptoms, but I really feel like this is great for everyone. You can kind of go in this order or just see what feels good for you. So holding your head on top, in the front and the back, keeping it on the front of your head and moving to your heart space, moving the hand on your head down to your belly, your solar plexus, and just being as firm or as not firm as you want, what feels good. It really can help to regulate yourself, putting your hand to the back of your head and keeping one on the belly. These are good ways to hold yourself. I also sometimes just hug myself. And sometimes I do that while I'm looking in the mirror to show myself that I am being for myself. I think that's really important. So creating habits is building a foundation of awareness, right? So I think it's really, really important to start small. Commit to do one thing today. Even if it's as simple as swaying in the morning or journaling at night or taking 3 deep breaths at a certain time of the day. Just start literally with one thing. When I started building habits, I actually started because I did not floss regularly. So I started my habits actually not even by any stuff, but by flossing my teeth and washing my face at night because I just was really bad about that. So those are little things I did just to create the habit of habit, right? And that stuff is good for your body and mental health, right? It's good for your health overall. So it made me feel refreshed. It made me kind of help me wind down. So start very small. Build your capacity, which is similar. You want to start small so you can build your capacity. By creating this foundation, you'll be able to lean on these practices during a time that's more difficult and stressful, right? Because you have that foundation. So think of doing this in a way that's not just reactive to something, but more just to create that foundation. You'll notice how your body feels in these moments and more easily because you have that foundation. I also write start where you're most resistant. So not like what you don't want to do, but if you're really feeling like a tightness in your body, like in your neck, you could start there. Like I'm just gonna gently stretch my neck. It doesn't even have to be too much, a little bit every day, very little. So that's like what I mean by most resistant. Or if you're feeling numb, don't just start meditating. Maybe just start gently swaying. Another thing you could do when you feel numb is you can hum, like change your tone and your pitch. Just think of what might be most difficult for you and start there, but in a way that's very gentle. And most importantly, be patient. Everything takes time. And if something tells you it's going to be some quick fix, just be practical. So it's okay. All of this is talking about starting slow and starting small, and you'll be amazed at how much it can build. So that's it. I just wanted to see if there were any questions. Feel free to, I think Margot is going to moderate. Wow, I have exactly 10 minutes left, which was what I was going for. Awesome.
Yeah, good for you. All right. So one question that got a couple of, you can vote up, I guess, was how do we ground ourselves when we're disassociated or disconnected from our bodies?
Yeah. So I think that the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and if you don't want to do 5, you could do 2. In terms of your active sensations you have, naming 3 things you see, naming 2 things you could feel, something you ate that day helps bring you back. If you're dissociated, sometimes it might just help to rest, to literally rest, because essentially what's happening when you're dissociating is your body. I think it's really helpful to look at the metaphor of home. So dissociation and shutting down and feeling numb is like your body's saying, things are too much. Let's just keep the lights on. Let's just keep the electricity running. Let's just keep the heat going so we can keep going, right? It's not moving the furniture in. It's not decorating. It's not making a nice meal. You know, it's that very base level. So think about what you could do to just keep that going and being gentle with yourself. I actually recently just learned about this meditation called HAR meditation. In the last few days in the morning, I've been waking up kind of anxious, and it's a very activating meditation. So, and I wanted to start doing it in the mornings, and I realized, no, that's not good for me because I'm feeling really anxious and I need to do something to ground myself, not to activate me even more, right? So really being mindful of where you're at, and kind of ground. And honestly, sometimes grounding yourself could actually literally be hugging a tree or like being like standing on the earth. Like it really is so healing. I know that sounds super hippy dippy, but I'm telling you, it really helps. Yeah. Being in nature is very grounding to me. See, blanket fort, yeah. Heavy weight can be very helpful too. A weighted blanket. Thank you so much, Brittany, for mentioning that. Yeah. Talk to trees. Yeah. Okay. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah. Okay. So somebody asked a very specific question: is there a way our body communicates to us before we get high triglycerides? And so, I can see how there's certain conditions that can creep up on us without us being aware.
Yeah,
so I don't know if you have any thoughts.
That specific connection, but I do think that it's good to know like our own signals of being full, or if we're like having heartburn or something like that, to stop and maybe see. Sometimes when I get stressed, I eat really fast, and then I can get heartburn and all that. So I think it's really important to know, or I eat beyond my capacity. And I'm not shaming anyone for any eating things or especially if you have an eating disorder or you know someone that does, or is that something sensitive? There's not any shame in that, but that is something to keep in mind, that might be happening to your body. And as a result, I think, a heart attack itself is a cue to your body, but obviously you don't want to get to that point, right? But there are also things that happen in our body that just happen, and there are not warning signs in terms of actual like heart disease or something like that. So I'm a medical librarian, but not a physician.
Right.
So I don't know exactly, but I think that's something really good to ask your doctor or to do some research on, because I know that's a really good, very specific, but yeah, I hope that what I did was helpful.
Yeah. Any tips for mothers of young children?
So I'm not a parent, so I'm not going to act like I know, but I do think, I've been a child and I have friends with kids. And I think one really helpful thing to do is ground, and potentially ground with your kids, saying, okay, let's take a couple deep breaths right now, together, or dance it out, have dance parties with them, right? Sometimes we all have excess energy that we need to get rid of. I think that could be something really helpful. And I think it's helpful to do it with them. I also think sometimes that, like anyone, we need space away. So if you have other resources like that, someone else can be with your child, if that's accessible to you, just to take a 5-minute walk outside, or to just hold your hand over your heart, that could be helpful. I think that's what's coming to the top of my head right now. Like I said, I don't have kids, so I can't speak very specifically to my own experience with it. But I do think, play is really helpful for children, but also for adults. We all have inner children within us who need that play. And I also think that it's important to think of that, and say, I need, tell your child what you need. Like, I need to breathe a lot right now. My heart's racing too much. Like, how does your body feel? That helps them be aware of their bodies too, right? Like, it's a joint exercise. It's good for everyone. Gardening with your kids. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, my kids are grown now, but I remember reading a suggestion to meditate with your kids for 3 breaths. That's it. breathe in, breathe out, and smile. And that way, and I loved it as an idea to introduce the idea of meditation, but without having unrealistic expectations of what a kid was going to be able to do.
Yeah, I also, someone just said humor and something about chorus. And thing that is also helpful when you're very like kind of numb is to do the with your lips, It really helps stimulate, I think, the vagus nerve, just like humming does. And that I think is a really fun thing to do with kids. Like, oh, let's like flap our lips for a little bit. I think there's a better word for it. I don't know if it's blowing raspberries. Is that what they say? I forget. But yeah, just doing like a trill with your lips. It's a funny sound. It's fun, and it literally calms you down. Yeah, lip trill, lip buzz. Yeah, it actually does something. Like if you do it, see how it feels in your body.
Okay, so any recommendations for people who are physically isolated or alone during the pandemic and maybe feeling some of these things more than people who are sharing space with others? And I can see where they're getting with that.
Yeah.
When you're spending a lot of time by yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I, had a magic answer to this. I do think that sometimes you could feel very numb and kind of feel like deactivated. So doing like movements to help you do that, to move. I know Zoom and FaceTime and all that stuff can be too much sometimes, but connecting with someone can, I think, be really helpful. I also think those self-holds can be really helpful, being there for yourself if you are very isolated with others, and like holding yourself really tight. I also think it's okay to just let yourself feel what you're feeling, and to cry it out and to just be that way. I know that's not a solution, but I also think that telling yourself to not feel that way is more unhelpful. I've done meditations about befriending your feelings. I'm sure you could go to YouTube and hear some too, like how to befriend your feelings. Some of them for actually kids, but I think they're great. I was actually going to record one for my website, but yeah, I think those can be really helpful. Visualizing the feelings that you're having and knowing, kind of creating that as a separate person and knowing how to take care of them and what would you do to take care of a person. You can also do an inner child meditation. That could be the first time I did an inner child meditation, I was like bawling. So it could be very activating the first time, but I think it's really, really helpful to, understand that, that child who maybe didn't have enough or wasn't heard or wasn't seen can be seen, and you can reparent them. I can do a whole nother hour on that too, probably. So yeah, I think that, doing those holds, connecting with someone, and maybe doing it when you don't want to, like really get to know what your edges are, where you don't want, okay, fine, I don't want to talk to this person, it's too much, versus I probably should, but I'm going to pull back a little, and I'm going to try to just reach out to them and like see what happens, and if it's too much for your body, say, okay, forget it, I gotta go. But maybe just try if that's possible. Yeah.
Okay. Somebody had picked out that there was the word bad on the feelingswheel.com and wasn't sure what bad meant. Is it wrong, negative, depressed?
Sure. I'm just gonna go back to that. I mean, this is kind of this wheel and what it says. I'm trying to find where it is. Under angry? Bad. Bad is the core emotion one. Yeah. I feel like it's like, I don't feel well in my body. I would say maybe not well is a better way of putting that. And that could be sad, but like, if you're looking at sad, it's I would say that bad can be stressed. Sad isn't stressed. So I think it's helpful actually to look out on the wheel to see. So I don't feel well, or I'm feeling maybe negative is another way. And again, that's a way to be like a binary of good versus bad, like that you are bad. It's that you don't feel like you feel like bad and negative in your body. I would say negative or not well is a better word for that.
Mm-hmm. What about feeling overwhelmed by others' emotions, whether it's your partner or, yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I think is really helpful for that is to really understand what energies are active there and how much you feel that you're needing to take care of them. Someone did this, so I didn't come up with this myself, but observe, don't absorb. Observe what's happening with them, but you don't have to absorb their energy. And I also think it's really important to communicate, I am here for you. I want to be here for you, but if you can, ask me before you unload, so that I can ask myself if I can handle this right now. Like I really want to be there for you, and I appreciate if you're there for me. I think that that's really helpful to get that consent and for that person to know that they need to ask for it. Because I think especially like in intimate relationships, it's like that's your person, so you just do that. Like I feel like with friends, you might ask for permission sooner than with like an intimate partner. But even with friends, I think it's good to ask for that consent, you know, especially these days. So I think that it's good to know, and also listen to yourself. You know, if you're like, I can't do this, but like I could do it tomorrow or something, I think that that's okay. And that's, once again, not abandoning yourself and not betraying yourself by saying, this is what I need right now. Hey, you know, I could talk to you in 30 minutes. I just need 30 minutes, you know? And then in that time, you could ground yourself or do whatever you need to do.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are at time. The questions are pouring in, but do you have ways people can, you're on Twitter, right?
Yeah, I'm on
Other ways
Twitter.
For folks
I think I saw someone put my, I also have an Instagram. It's Healing Hype Girl. Because I love healing and I love it's all, I'm hype about it. So you can follow me on Instagram if you want. You could DM me if you want. You could email me at my work email. It's nmodi@library.ucla.edu. Yeah, I'm definitely here if you want to chat.
Okay, so folks, the next session will start like in 28 minutes or so, if I'm doing the math right. So we do encourage you to step away or move away from your screen at this point. Give yourself a break. And if you do come back earlier, you might be interested in taking a look at the arena where we have some booths, or to go to the lounge and connect with your fellow attendees. So thank you, everyone, for participating.
Thank you so much. So honored.
Thanks for watching. This video was produced by the network of the National Library of Medicine. Select the circular channel icon to subscribe to our channel, or select a video thumbnail to watch another video from the channel.